Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
You're listening to the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thanks for joining us here on a busy, what ended up being a really busy Friday, as there is much to discuss. And, of course, who better to discuss it with than the big dog, who's off his leash yet again. Danny Unleashed with Danny Clinkscale from DannyClinkscale.com. He's brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. The days are ticking away. You can right now save 10% up to $500 on a re-roof, roof repairs, attic insulation, gutters. All you got to do is mention 810 and save 10% up to $500 at Easton Roofing. Estimate has to be written and signed between now and March 18th. It's not an offer or inducement to pay part or all of any insurance deductible. Call 913-257-5426. No payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. That's how Easton Roofing does business, both residential and commercial. And right now, I will let you know that they are expecting material costs to rise in the neighborhood of 20, 30, some people even predicting 40%. That means the price of any roof repairs, any new roof is going to go up. I'm not sure what all is going on. Well, I think it has to do with the pandemic and everything and just a shortage of materials. So a great time. If you're like, yeah, we're probably going to need something, but I'll get around to it. Don't wait. Call now, 913-257-5426. What you're paying now could be plus 20%, 30%, 40% even if you just wait a month or two. So if you've been putting it off, don't put it off any longer. Call Joe and his team so they can get you the best price possible right now. 913-257-5426 online at eastonroofing.com. Danny, my friend, how are you?
Doing all right. Lots going on, as you said, and we're trying to keep positive and keep moving in the right direction in many areas, and so doing just fine and ready to get into the banter battle, as I often call it in my social media posts.
Where would you like to start? I'll give you two choices. I'll give you Les Miles, and I'll give you the Royals.
Oh, why don't we start and get through the Les Miles and then get some smiles? How's that?
Okay, that's good. Your thoughts, your reaction to what's going on with the Jayhawks right now?
Well, I guess to start off on a slightly lighter note, what I've thought of during the course of the day as this was going on was the old routine by Chris Rock about if you don't beat your wife that you're a good husband, or what was it? Oh, you don't go to jail.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I stay out of jail. Oh boy. Well, I guess the if he was saying that's sort of his African American cohort's version of being doing things right, I guess the 50-plus-year-old white man version is setting the bar so low for us to leap to be a nice guy. Hey, I don't sexually harass people in the workplace. I'm a good person. I mean, it's just this stuff is rampant. I mean, come on.
It's rampant around college athletics, yes.
Yeah, and it's rampant in a lot of places and
around sports, really. Mickey Callaway with in baseball and
it's all of this, of course, is alleged in Les Miles, but the things he admits are creepy enough. I mean, I was driving around with this young lady giving her career advice. I mean, come on. So, he survived at LSU because they were winning football games, but it appeared like he didn't have much of a leash there because of all the things that were swirling around. Because, he came off a 9-win season, I think, then went 2-2, lost a game to Auburn and got fired. Now, we know that the standards of LSU football are ludicrously high, and he had finished 4th in the division the year before. But still, he was a very successful coach there. The other part, I guess, that's disturbing is that Jeff Long was an AD in the conference at the time.
Right.
I mean, you can't – it's stretching credulity to think that he was around, SEC media days and SEC meetings and things like that and didn't catch some kind of a whisper that stuff was going on if LSU was conducting investigations that lead to 50 and 60-page reports about the behavior of their coach, who was then, according to multiple reports, told that he couldn't be around these staffers. Like I said, it strains credulity that he didn't know something about this and then went out and hired him because he was his old friend. And I think that I don't know what Les Miles has done to really get any benefit of the doubt in this situation. I guess the only defense for him is the fact that these issues went on at another program. When he was fired in 2016, that's not forever ago. And, did he turn over a new leaf? Are we supposed to believe that he completely changed? There's no activities like this whatsoever. It's a mess, is what it is, and it's yet another mess for Jeff Long. Now, a couple of the, one of those he inherited, obviously, is the Kansas basketball situation, but he was the one who fired David Beatty and then said he was, according to court documents, looking around for dead hookers. Well, he doesn't have dead hookers, but he's got, fooling around with co-eds here. I mean, it'd be a ridiculous double standard if somehow Les Miles survives this.
Yeah.
And he didn't win a game last year.
Well, and I saw, and of course now I can't find where, between my iPad and where I found it, but somebody had, they were quoting from the Miles to Go TV show, and they had, basically it was Jeff Long sitting back, leaned back in a couch on the phone, saying to someone, you can't give me any reason why I shouldn't pursue this. And so that basically, that was his, due diligence was right there asking someone on the phone, which is what people are asking, why didn't you ask questions? Whoever he apparently was speaking to at that time, he apparently was asking the question at that time. I mean, that's the thing is, there's no way Jeff Long comes out of this looking okay. He's going to be damaged by, not saying he's going to definitely get fired, that he can't make it past this, because I think he can. But I think there's no way that he's not damaged at Kansas. Now, he can do a lot of things right and repair that damage, but I don't know how you could sit there and say, that he isn't at least, he's either gullible because he just took Les Miles' word for it and didn't ask the questions that needed to be asked, or he knew about it and didn't think it was a big deal.
Right. There's nothing that his Jeff Long's tenure has had nothing to recommend it, basically, so far. And this isn't helping, that's for sure. And you just can't understand. It just seems a matter of time, of when, not if, Les Miles goes. I mean, the LSU apparently didn't. Yeah, he denies that he kissed anyone. He doesn't deny some of the things that are.
What doesn't he deny?
He doesn't deny being with the student who he allegedly kissed in the car. He doesn't deny that.
Well, if his side is I didn't do anything wrong, we drove from A to B and I got in the car, we got out of the car. I mean, that's denying that anything wrong happened.
I guess. I mean, there's all kinds of questions to be asked here.
Now,
if you are feeling in a creepy situation with your employer, why are you accepting a ride? Maybe it was completely innocent. They were just going from point A to point B, and then all of a sudden she's being put in a position that makes her feel completely uncomfortable. To your point, though, I will say that and then the piece we read about the athletic director saying, look, I believe the guy, I believe in innocent until proven guilty. In this case, though, he's absolutely guilty. I told him to stay away from students, and he didn't do that. So if he admits to being in the car and he was told, hey, we can't corroborate these accusations, but one way that we can know that there's never a problem is if you're never alone with a student. So don't be alone with a student. And then he gave her a ride. He clearly violated what his boss told him to do. Yes.
But it is possible to violate what his boss told him to do and have done nothing wrong in the car. It's not a good look, but
that is possible.
It's possible.
It is possible.
But, it doesn't look good. And this at a time, are there issues with the chancellor as well at Kansas right now?
I don't. I'd have to be refreshed on whether there are issues with the chancellor.
Either the chancellor or the president. Somebody sent me a thing saying, by the way, there's questions about that part of the equation as well. What about? I don't know. But, it's like, okay, so who's calling the shots here? For me, the thing that, the big issue, I think, do you notice, somebody said to me, who was I was texting with this morning, and they said, this is a remarkable story, that it's a local story that seems to be a bigger deal on the national scene than it is on the local scene.
Yeah,
ESPN had it on every Sports Center last night. Like, I was sitting working on the computer, so I rolled from Van Pelt into the West Coast and then into the replay of the East Coast last night. And so I was hearing the same stories recycled for 2+ hours into a third hour. And they brought it up on all 3 editions of Sports Center, and they gave it time. It wasn't like, oh, by the way. And yet around here, and I said, I think part of it is because most people don't think Les Miles is going to be the guy anyway. They're like, well, whether he gets fired now or after next year, what does it matter?
Well, it would matter because you did some due diligence and realized it's the right thing to do.
Oh, no, I know it does matter, but I'm saying from a standpoint of, really moving the needle with Kansas fans.
Well, for instance,
they're like, it's just a matter of time till he's gone anyway. It's not like, oh, wait a minute, you're trying to get rid of my 10-win coach? Screw you. He did nothing wrong. Like, there's no standing up for him. There's no, I just think it's like, I think there's some apathy there. There's obviously apathy towards Kansas football in general because of all the years of losing.
Well, I guess I'll give an example is that, I very much enjoyed getting the physical newspaper, but probably 6 months ago we stopped doing that. So I consume the paper during my morning constitutional on my laptop. And at first I just
more detail than necessary.
Ew.
I read the paper in the morning is good enough for us, Danny.
Also, with that huge laptop, geez, Louise.
Holy cow. That's a balancing act there, man.
Anyway, I like to inject a little levity into the process.
Size of a car hood.
Anyway, at first I start with just kcstar.com because
and we're talking about a 1978 Lincoln.
Yeah, not a Pinto. That's like
no.
I have a bigger one than this.
This is not a lay car.
No,
we're talking about here.
No.
Okay,
so
78 Plymouth Fury.
You remember the Le Car?
Right.
Yes.
Hey,
I had a Yugo, so don't tell me about Le Car. I did. You'll like this, Soren.
Oh, that's so fantastic! You had a Yugo.
This is a radio story. This is a quick radio story. This is fun. So
who has money for a $2,000 Yugo?
Well,
there's Adobe.
This is the radio part of it. So the woman who become my first wife, she and I broke up at some point. She wanted to get married. I didn't want to get married.
That's called a divorce.
No, this is before we ever got married. This was before we got married. Okay. So we were living together, and she had wearied of that and said, "I want to get married." And it came at a point where she was not somebody else I wanted to marry at that point in time, and I said,
"Probably should have gone with
first." We ran into each other going for the mic.
Fight at the bat rack right there for that one.
We had 10 fine years and 2 children, so that's all right.
I know you did.
Anyway, so she said, either we're going to get married or I'm going to leave. And I said, well, I guess you're going to leave. well, she left, all right, and she took everything. I mean, she took it all from Utica, New York to Kansas. Car, every bit of furniture we had, put it in a U-Haul, and I literally had a couch, a bed, a pot, and a pan. That's what I had, okay? No car. So I'm making like nothing. 18 gur at the old radio station. And it was a good job, too. I mean, I was doing Division I hockey. And anyway, so that I had to go down. Like on Monday, I had to go to one of our sponsors and said, okay, I don't have any money for a down payment. I don't have a trade-in. And I want the best car I can get for the lowest price that's, new. And so I got a brand spanking new Yugo.
Danny Klingscale here for Bill Trotsky's Yugo.
and I loved that car. It was all I had. But I'll tell you, this is the Syracuse part that you're like, or the New York part. So I would drive back to my parents every so often on the weekend, and that you go through the rolling hills of the Berkshires, and on the way from Boston to Syracuse, basically, and you had to floor it going uphill on the Mass Turnpike to go the speed limit. To get it to like 68.
I think we rented that car in Tahoe one year.
68 miles per hour. I was 58 miles an hour. I'm standing on it. Standing on it.
Curtis is right. No offense to these cars because they've come a long way, but like maybe the first year that was it a Hyundai or a Kia? Curtis?
I think it was a Kia.
I think it was a Kia. It was some kind of like
before they became
Kia
a status
SUV, and of course the company, sprung for that was at our old company, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Sprung for nothing but the best, Scratchy Dave's Rental Motors, and so we get this Kia.
I just spit my Coke, by the way.
Can confirm. All over his car hood computer.
So three of us trying to get up over the mountains and down to the lake. The lake is surrounded by mountains, hence the way it looks on TV when people see it. And we literally hit the top of that thing at what, Curtis? 25 miles an hour.
Yes.
We were down to?
You had
like
to
we
go
literally
fast
weren't
down
sure
the
we
hill.
were going to make it.
You had to go fast down the hill to make sure you could get to the top of the next one.
It was
Foot to the floor, slowing down.
We're like, this was not the vehicle for our fat asses. Clearly,
Right.
Anyway, the old Yugo, and by the way, when my first wife and I got back together, the Yugo was the first thing to go. She says, "I don't want to look at that thing."
She said, "You go, you go."
She says, "You go." It was a memory of the time that she had been
for the youngsters.
Sent for
the
curve.
Yugo was a Yugoslavian car.
Yes.
That literally, when cars were going new for what, 15 to 25.
Oh, it was two. I think it was $2,000.
It was $2,000.
Yeah, it was $2,000.
It was $2,000. It literally, defied. Saturday Night Live did a skit. They're like, a Yugo, $2,000. I mean, who's got that kind of money? Well, introducing Adobe. It was literally a car made of clay.
It was a brand new car, and with no trade-in and no down payment, my payment was $105 a month.
By the way, I clicked on the images.
I don't think it
to
exists
post that,
anymore.
And the first link is from a Car and Driver article entitled, "A Quick Look at the Yugo, the Worst Car in History."
It was baby blue, too, to top it
Oh,
off.
my Lord. It just gets better with every moment. All right.
So full circle, what I was going to say real quick is that I was reading the portion of the paper that's not the...
So back to Les Miles.
That's not the...
back to Danny's dump.
not the version that is the replica of the newspaper, because that has a lot of old stories in it. It's sort of yesterday's paper.
Right.
But so it's I check up the breaking news. Well, on the Kansas page, it was, there were 4 stories about Kansas basketball above any. I'm scrolling down. I'm like, where's the Les Miles news here? I mean, this is a pretty big deal. So Kansas's epic win over UTEP was rated higher.
You're the second person to tell me that it was buried way down on the Star website.
Yes.
Are we missing? Is it not the big deal that is he like, oh, no, this is nothing. They don't have any proof on him, so he'll definitely be back. Why are you guys talking about it? Am I missing something?
I think it's just the state of the football program. That's what I think, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, because somebody else told me that they didn't see. They're like, what's this Les Miles story? And I'm like, well, this, that. They're like, well, I looked at the paper today. Then they went and they go, no, they scroll down. They go, it was the 11th story.
Yes, I can confirm. You couldn't see
national,
it until you scroll down.
Maybe the national news are viewing it as an LSU story, and it's not so much a KU story.
Well,
and that
KU
really
story.
all it is to us is a KU story. And stuff happened there.
It's only an LSU story because they won the national championship here. I mean, he was hired at Kansas by an athletic director who was in the conference when this crap was going on. To me, it's a story. I don't know.
Oh, I'm with you, but that could be why the national is playing it up more than it is here.
I think so. Percentage, he's the coach on opening day.
Boy, I can't think it's more than 25%, but maybe I'm just delusional. I don't know.
I said less than 50. I'll stand by that, but I guess I'm going to put it at 40 because other people aren't making a bigger deal out of it. I'm like, because the thing that I don't think people are factoring in, it's never just this event.
Right.
It's your whole body of work. And so he's got this and two turd seasons.
Right, and a turd season last year that only could have been, if there was no pandemic last year, the quality of performance was so bad, worse than anything we've seen, I think, even under David Beatty and Turner Gill.
It's two turd years. It's this embarrassment, and it's the fact that every time he's in public, he leaves people scratching their head going, is this guy medically okay?
Agreed on all counts.
And I'm not saying that flippantly, because if I say that because I'm worried that at some point somebody's going to go, well, it turns out Coach Miles has this. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be the guy that made fun of him for 3 years, and this was coming. I mean, there are people that I trust that are legitimately like, I'm like, is the guy all right? Well, I don't know. Okay.
Yep.
So like that, all those things, like it's kind of like that the LSU athletic director said to the president that was coming in. Like, my point to everybody is, and I'm not trying to get the guy fired. He's done nothing to me. I don't like what I've heard. If these things are true, I think he's despicable and he should be fired. But I don't know that they're true. But it's certainly not a good look. But like, why are you going to take the arrows for another year?
Exactly.
I mean, you better think. No, we got a 7-5 team.
Also, if Jeff Long survives, this is kind of a get out of jail free card. I mean, if they go out and stink it up again next year, this is the coach he hired. At least he can get rid of him and restart the shot clock because of a scandal per se, not just the fact that you hired a crummy coach.
Yeah, but he's going to have to show the powers that be a good reason as to why he wasn't at least somewhat hip to it.
Yeah.
And do you agree with me? This explains to me Curtis's line about the future tells us what
past
really
was all about. Yeah.
Yeah, what the past was all about. Like, $2 million seemed like, I'm like, what? $2 million? The guy's won conference championships in the SEC. He's won a national championship, and it only cost $2 million.
Right.
I mean, I think that kind of screams like, okay, now I understand why he was so cheap. Literally no one else would hire him because the entire industry was kind of hip to what was going on.
Yes. I mean, it in many ways, it reminds me of what I always used to say about when Charlie Weiss picked up the phone and was offered the Kansas job, and he just covered the mouthpiece and said, honey, somebody wants to hire me. I guess I should take it.
I had a hard time to putting it into words, but the way I figure is a photograph, and there's a big table, and on one side of the table is Les Miles. On the other side of the table are the adjudicators of what's happened. To this point, we don't know what side of the table Jeff Long's going to sit at.
Right?
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, That's a good way to put it. I was trying to look. What did Charlie Weiss get to go to Kansas?
I don't know, but I think it was, for the time, I think it was a fairly significant amount, but he was also still getting paid by Notre Dame, so maybe that was, part of the deal.
I was thinking Weiss was paid nearly $10.3 million by Notre Dame, blah, 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 blah.
I don't remember.
Weiss, Kansas contract. Because I want to know what
the landscape of salaries has changed really dramatically in that length of time, though, too. So it's probably
okay. That's my point. So it was how many years later?
Well, this is when he was fired. They owed him a gross amount of more than $5.6 million.
Right, but it was like 2.5 per.
Yeah. So, right. So he was probably making.
So 7 or 8 years later, right. Les Miles, who won a national title. And his team was not in the toilet when he left. It just wasn't good enough for LSU. Got less than Charlie Weiss got 8 years before.
Right.
That screams what's up.
Can't disagree with that one either.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll talk some Royals baseball with Danny Klingscale. It's Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Remember, mention 810. You can get 10% off up to $500 on a re-roof, roof repairs, attic insulation, or gutters. And I would encourage you to act fast. The cost of materials is going up throughout the construction industry, and that's no different in the roofing industry. Your best price is going to be now. Call Easton Roofing at 913-257-5426.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
All right, the good sense, end of the hour answer. Before UTEP, who was the opponent the last time Kansas played a regular season non-con game in March?
Wow.
A question asked to me the other night by our friend and former tech producer, Tate Vobach.
Oh, I've got no clue.
I've got nothing.
No clue.
March 10th, 1951.
By the way, did you run around the block looking for the answer or something?
Yeah, I had to run in and start rolling on Adalberto Mondesi, who was starting at 3:35. So
you should have seen the big man
he
move.
was starting in 40 seconds, and I said, how long do we have? Jay goes, 90 seconds. I went, so I ran in there,
quickness,
fired it up, and ran back.
At least
like a D tackle.
The Royals did us a favor by tweeting that out at 3:34, so plenty of time for Curtis to get right into the studio.
I know those. Okay, here it comes.
So, March 10th, 1951, Oklahoma State, then in the Missouri Valley Conference. Since the Big Eight began in 1958, the latest regular season non-con game Kansas had was February 21st, 1987, at St. John's. K-State's last March non-con was also 1951 against Illinois. Missouri, and I'd forgotten about this, and even seeing it, I still don't remember it. They had a home-and-home in 1990 and 1991 with Notre Dame, both games played after the conclusion of the regular season. The Monday after the final weekend, they played Notre Dame. In fact, Doug Smith's last game at the Hearn Center was in a 30-point win over Notre Dame in 91.
That's weird.
I don't even remember that.
They were non-con. They didn't have a conference. They weren't in the Big East, so they were grabbing games wherever, so you might play Notre Dame late like that. That's interesting. Playing for Good Sense there, goodsensesubs.com. If you want to put an order in now, the app, the easiest way to order. And remember, 10% back when you're part of that loyalty club, locally owned and operated, founded in Lenexa, Kansas. That's Good Sense. We're talking to Danny Klingscale here in the program. Hunter Dozier, 4 years, $25 million. To start, there are incentives that could take it on up.
Right, to $49 million. I think good business for both sides. It can be not a ton of money for the Royals. He's coming off a season that certainly was compromised by injury and COVID, but it wasn't a very good year. He's not particularly young for the amount he's played, but he certainly has shown enough signs that he could be a fine ball player. So I thought it was fair and a good idea for both sides to sign it.
And now, if they are going to start locking up guys, who else should they be locking up?
Well, the guy who Curtis got winded chasing in there, he'd have to sign for pennies on the dollar for me to, make a long-term commitment to him. Now, and he
talking about Mondesi.
Yeah, and I don't think that he probably is somebody who his representatives would think should take a, Whit Merrifield, Hunter Dozier type of deal, at this point in time, because I think they probably still feel he's got an explosive season in him that would increase his value, far more than that. And I wouldn't do it from the Royal standpoint because I think he's given every, I think you should just take it step by step and see where it goes. So I can't really think of another candidate right now, to be honest. Can you?
Yes, Brad Keller.
Yeah, that's
Sal Perez, Jorge Soler.
Nah, I wouldn't do Jorge. I wouldn't do Soler.
So here's Benintendi. Yes. So here's
it just
where
depends
I'm
on
at.
it just depends on the terms. I guess I'm thinking in realistic terms that Dozier's somebody who I think fits the profile of somebody who would take a deal like this. I'm not so sure the other guys do. From the Royals' standpoint, if they could craft this type of deal with Keller or Benintendi, I think Benintendi probably doesn't strike me at all as somebody who would go for something like this. So, yes, if they could do something like that with Keller, I'll agree with you there. And I think it's plausible. And I think it's plausible.
All right, so here's my frustration, and that is the fact that you don't move Whit Merrifield, you don't move Jorge Soler, or Soler. You went and got Soler. You don't move Salvador Perez, and now when you're seemingly about to be back, you're just going to let them walk, and you're going to get nothing for them.
Sal Perez is a very interesting person to discuss because you can see him in a Yadier Molina role where he's not going to be the offensive player that he's still, as of last year, showed, but he's so valuable in other areas that he could drop down a notch or two and still be a good and valuable player for you. Would he be in the position of willing to take this kind of each side gives up something deal? And Merrifield, they've just treated like a redheaded stepchild, which is a horrendous phrase that probably ought to be dropped from the lexicon, but I just used it because people know what it means all along. So, very, very interesting thoughts to raise. I'll say that.
I mean, look, here's and not that the manager's out there to tell us the exact honest truth, and the general manager the exact honest truth of everything that's going on within an organization. But you've been going on and on about how great Mondesi is. He'll never be cheaper than right now.
Do you think his representation...
Do you believe what you're saying?
But do you feel like his representation would go for a deal like we're talking about?
Well, it depends. I mean, if he's as good as you say he is, he's a $100 million player, and I think it would take far less than $100 million to get them to commit. Because I think his representation would have the same view of him. Look, agents aren't dumb. Agents know what they've got in a player. They know what a player's weaknesses are. Now, Scott Boras may traipse around and act like his guy is the greatest player. Every player he's got is the greatest ever. But when he sits down to do the negotiations, he knows what the limitations are with guys. Everybody's got him somewhere. Trout's not hitting 100 home runs. There's a limit to what he can do, right? So if what would you say he's worth right now on the open market?
I mean, if I was
2
going to
years of service this year and 2 more that he's got arbitration.
So you got to sign him
more or less than what Hunter Dozier got.
I don't want to be a weenie and say about the same. Maybe a little bit more.
More off upside I would listen to. Less off what he's done I would listen to as well.
I would say a little bit more because his defensive flexibility is at better defensive positions on the field.
Right. Okay. And I although we have seen no flexibility because they've played him nowhere but short.
No, but I mean the odds that the man can't play center field seem remote to me. But
yes, I would agree. So my point is, so if that's what it is, and you offered him 6 years for $100 million, do you think he's going to sign?
Yes, I think he would sign for $6 for $100 million, but I wouldn't go anywhere near that.
All right, but $6 for $100 million, the way they talk about him, is a bargain.
Well, right, they still consistently say he's going to be a star.
So, it's great. I mean, all along, the best thing that Ned Yost and Dayton Moore had when Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas were the guys that needed to be signed was that they were Boras clients and would never sign it, so they never had to actually put their money where their mouth was. This kid seemingly would sign. They had to put their money where their mouth is on Hunter Dozier. But they're not willing to do it, it seems, on Mondesi. Because you could say, well, Mondesi wants more than he's worth. Well, what are you offering him? What his productivity's been? Or what you've said he is?
Right.
That's my frustration.
I think if they paid him like what they said they think he is, and not even, say, 2/3 of that, he would probably take it. But they don't.
Right?
They don't. They seem to be talking in one regard and not acting in the other. But we don't know. I mean, Mondesi's people may be just saying, we're riding it out to free agency. This guy is going to click at some point.
Right? But if that's my point is, like, everyone would be like, you just offered him 5 for $60 with the chance with escalators that could take it to 6 to 90 off what he's done. Yes, because he's going to be a star. And then when he's a star, you put the middle finger up and say, see?
Told you.
I mean, his hot streaks, if his hot streaks are the norm, which we know they're not going to be because he doesn't have the frequency of contact and he doesn't have the patience at the plate. But, like, those say, Fernando Tatis.
Right?
But
yes.
he's the whole bag.
But, I mean, baseball is is more than maybe any other a game of consistency, and that a hot streak like he puts up is like one good football game.
Right. And, I mean, this is the last year that you can not know what you have in him. I mean, every year we seemingly say this, and then this happens. Well, he had a streak. Last year was COVID.
At least it'll be a full year, yes.
We better not be sitting here a year from now going, we're still waiting for Mondesi. He's still going to be out there. To me, this is the final year you can even talk about what he
Well, and we talked about it last year.
He'll also probably get hurt.
Well, we talked about it last year. They've already gone past one of the major milestones, and that is the ability to trade him for anything of value.
Right.
That's gone. No one would. There might be teams that agree that, like, it's going to click and this guy's going to be a star. Well, they won our best hitting prospect down in A-ball. Well, good God, no, we're not giving him up. Well, but wait a minute. You said he could be like a 20-50 guy, with 40 doubles. Like, we don't know what this guy's going to be down in A-ball. Let's do it. Well, I mean, he could be that, but I'm not going to trade our best prospect on it, because then I'm on the record for it. So no one will trade for the values, and the Royals can't accept less than, this star value because they've said he's a star. So now they're married. They have no choice but to play it out. So the only thing that's left to do to try to capitalize on the player is to get him for less than what his production is going to be. That's the only way for the team to win at this point. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, great, in the last 3 years, he's going to make what he should make based upon what he just did 5 minutes ago, and then you're going to watch him leave because somebody else is going to offer him a contract that you won't match.
Right. You could say the Royals are dragging their feet right now, and then he goes out and has the season they've been waiting for this year, and then you're dead.
All right, let's take a break. More with Danny Clinkscale when we come back. He's Danny Unleashed. You can see his great work at DannyClinkscale.com. He's brought to you by Easton Roofing. Right now, mention 810, save 10% up to $500 on a roof repairs, attic installation, or gutters. 913-257-5426 online at EastonRoofing.com.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing. And, Joe, there's all kinds of roofing companies in Kansas City. People see their trucks, they see their ads, they see their commercials on TV. What separates you out from the pack?
Danny, there's a lot of roofers in Kansas City that are good roofers that can put a good roof on, but we like to pride ourselves on giving you a good customer service experience. From the first time you call, you're going to get a friendly voice on the phone. We're going to let you know what's happening and when it's happening. And, the other piece is some companies are small enough to do small jobs. Some companies are big enough to do big jobs. We're right there in the middle. We can handle the little stuff. We can handle your repairs all the way up to your big commercial roofs.
So what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you at Easton Roofing?
You can find us at eastonroofing.com, or you can always call us at 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Danny Unleashed with Danny Clinkscale from DannyClinkscale.com. Brought to you by Easton Roofing. Mention 810, save 10% right now at Easton Roofing. Material costs expected to go up. Get in now while the prices are as low as they can possibly be. It's 913-257-5426 online at EastonRoofing.com. Remember, no payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. Danny, I kind of have the same thought, right, to just finish the discussion about the Royals. Brady Singer, if they had just waited 7 days to bring him up, I think it's actually only 5 days, to be honest, skipped him one time, he would not be, would not have a full year of service time like he does now.
Yeah, that's been pointed out often. Sam Melger talked about it the other day that, it's something he raises with the Royals a lot, that it's, industry standard. Why aren't you sticking to the industry standard? I can't argue with that. But I guess one of the things that has made the Royals, when they were good, a strength was that it's a family atmosphere. The players feel loved. But, then, of course, there's Whit Merrifield.
Like what? It contributed to the chemistry of the last team? Because it really didn't contribute to anybody staying.
I agreed, but that's I guess the whole feeling of the organ. I mean, you see all these people come back. I mean, and now apparently Gerard Dyson's coming back. So I think that there should be a little more ruthlessness for the Royals. Yes, I agree. Five days of what are you really gaining? It's not like they were killing the guy by leaving him down there forever. For months on end.
Yeah. I mean, he skipped AAA.
Right. It would have been very easy to throw a couple starts in. I don't really quite understand that particular move.
Have I asked you what you think their record's going to be this year?
Yeah, I said it. I'll say that they win 77 games, and I'll be disappointed if they win less than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's 77 or screw you.
Yeah, 77, or they have not made the kind of progress they should be making with the ideas that they have about this particular group.
Okay, I'll take that. I think that's a fair assessment. Danny, great stuff. Always appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
All right, sounds good.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.